Good morning, everybody. This is Datum, and today I have two guests on, and we are going to talk about the topic of how do we bring value to the RPG community. I've got Mark Abrams, and he is the creator of Elthos RPG and has a online web app for Elthos called the Mythos Machine. And I'm also with Cameron Corniuk, and he is a internet marketer primarily, done all kinds of different types of marketing, and he also does his own RPG writing and playing. So how are you guys doing today?
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is Mark talking.
And
Hey,
Cam?
this is Cameron. Good to be here, man. How about yourself?
Well, I love talking to these guys. I've known these guys for at least, I think, at least 5 years. More for maybe both of you. I can't think of it right at the moment, but really this is the topic that kind of hit me yesterday, and I made a video about was how can we actually bring value to the RPG community? Most of the people that are in it and are making either their own systems or their own homebrew material or campaign settings are highly creative, highly resourceful, highly industrious. So how do you bring value to that market? And do either of you guys have a good idea how to start answering that, or do you want me to start?
Well, I mean, I have a plan. Uh, it's what I've been working on this whole time, and basically the idea is twofold. One is to provide a system that is, essentially okay. Just to cut to the chase, make the life of the games masters and the players easier. That's my tack. If I could do that, then I believe I'm providing value.
All right, that's an interesting answer. And Cam, do you have anything right off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty loaded question. I've got tons of things. So to keep it concise, this is a community-driven form of entertainment. So to be able to help communities come together and enjoy what they enjoy of the different parts of gaming, that's not everything's for everybody. So to get the right people together and to be able to enjoy like-minded individuals and meet new people that way, that's where I'm focused.
Mark, how are you executing?
So I have a product and I have a web service. So the product is Elthos RPG, and that is a rule system framework. It's designed for games masters who want to create their own worlds. So it's not a setting, it's completely genre neutral, and its focus is on giving games masters a way to fill out their own worlds with the methodology for creating things in that world that mathematically will work for them as games masters. So weapons and armors. So I give some example sets of things: weapons, armors, classes, races, da da da. And each of them have properties. And then if you want to create your own, then it's easy to do so. You just look at the property of the example things and you extrapolate off of there and you say, okay, weapons will do this kind of damage and blah, blah, blah. And so that's the rules system framework. And then I have a web application that uses that rule system framework as a basis for allowing games masters to create their own worlds online, using that rule system framework as the mathematical basis of it so that they can create their things online, and the math works for them so that it makes their lives easier. So once they build their world with the things in it that they want for that genre, for that world, like if I'm doing sci-fi, I have the Lewiston laser pistol and I've got this and that, and it does this much damage and it has this range and whatever. And it does. So once they've created their world, then the Mythos machine does all the number crunching for them and allows them to focus on the creative aspects of world building, which would be, okay, so I have this continent and I have these major cities, and underneath those cities are in wherever I want in this frame, in this structure, I can have campaigns, and those campaigns can have adventures. I can then create events within those adventures, either things that my players actually did or things that I know the non-player characters are going to do, or major world events that might occur along the way. I can date time them all if I want to, or I could leave it open-ended. Then it allows me to record the experience gains if I want to. It's optional, but I like to, of the characters as they're going on their adventures. And it does all the number crunching for calculating levels. And so it's a character management system at the same time as a world building system. So basically, I create a world, I invite my friends to go online and generate their characters online. Now I have a copy, they've got a copy. It creates easy printouts for character sheets and also my entire world. And it lets me manage my games much more easily than I ever could before. And so it's a huge time saver for me once I have my world built into it. And then if I want to change it or add new things to it or create new campaigns or adventures or new things like new armors or whatever, I can go ahead and do it online, and then it becomes available to the world and my players automatically.
And
for me, it's amazing time saver.
I was going to say, as you guys can tell, Mark's been working on Elthos for a very long time, and he has a very detailed but easy to use product. I've used it before, and I do like it. His biggest opportunity is really to the marketing side. Between the three of us, Mark is the product person, Cam is the marketing person, and I'm the performing person. So between the three of us, you put all those things together, and that is what's going to be the full package of being able to get this stuff together. But since we are all three kind of doing our own projects on our own, what we end up doing is we end up having these kind of conversations, leveraging each other's core competencies, and this is how we're going forward in business right now. So I'm just kind of laying that out there because that's why this I think that this conversation is going to be very valuable. So Cam, so I know that you have worked on things in the past, and that right now you're pretty busy with your profession, which is internet marketing. But how do you think that you can take, or what are you looking to do on executing in the RPG space to create value for the community?
That's a great question. Right now, I'm more interested in doing it for myself, more so than creating value for the community. I have stories I want to tell, and I have some ideas when it comes to rules and variations and gaming in general that I'd like to share. Goodness, I've been playing now for over 2 decades, and the hobby's becoming so popular. To just share some of that experience. I was actually kind of amazed to see some videos recently searching where people were saying things that, this is so basic. Do you need to explain this to people? And then I thought back to myself over 2 decades ago going, oh yeah, I needed to learn how to do that. So I guess that's it. I want to do my thing and have fun, but if I can help other people have fun along the way.
Right, that's a real kind of value add, not just for anybody that would use it, but I think really the conversation is the biggest thing that you do get. You cannot make content. You can't be a content creator without experiencing other people's content and kind of interacting with it, unless you have something like Mark has, where he's been at the computer console for Lord knows how many hours.
Ages.
of work into Elthos. But then you have to be able to take that and express it to an audience and get them interested in how useful and what the work on that is. So from here, what I really kind of wanted to talk about was ideas about daily and smaller incremental content to get these things going. Now, I know this is mostly going to be for me and Mark, but Cam is kind of here at my kind of request. I don't know. We kind of exchanged dry humor jokes over Discord, and I was basically saying, "Hey man, can you give me some pointers?" So that's kind of what he's here to help me do. So I guess what I want to get out of this segment is just a little bit of brainstorming on ideas of what kind of content would actually be useful to the people that are already like us. They're more engaged, they're watching content about RPGs on social media, and they're more than just the people that are actually buying products off the shelf. And that is go ahead, Mark.
I mean, is your focus on fellow creators, or your focus on players and games masters, or where are you trying to direct your attention?
So I think where there's the least amount of attention right now is kind of I guess it's kind of in the middle. It's like the people that are interested enough to watch social media about these things, but they are looking for some of that creativity. Like maybe they're looking for where the creativity comes from. Maybe they're looking for actual content to use, actual things being made. So a couple of the ideas that I have personally is I have the idea to create a 5th edition campaign setting that I give away over the course of videos and have a little bit of media to go along with them and all the things that you would need to use it in your 5th edition game. And so that's one of the ways that I think that I could create value and use that to get people interested in me personally. Then other than that, just being consistent with content. I know that consistency was really kind of the base of my business as a professional storyteller. So those are my first kind of initial ideas.
So, Kevin, I've known you for a while. You've got the goal to get people more interested in you. Listen, I've known you for years, and I'm not interested in you. But
this is why I keep Cam around. He keeps my ego in check.
Hey, I keep you grounded. No, but honestly, VB, I know the question was him, and I'm sorry, Mark, I'm calling you by your screen name, but
no problem.
But to throw that same thing, I was sitting back. It's kind of funny that I saw Kevin start this over the past period of time, and I wasn't paying attention to what he was posting because I was starting to brainstorm this in my head as well. So it's really just kind of what do they call that? Parallel creation?
It's serendipity? It could be serendipity. It also could be convergence.
Convergence, that's it. That was what I was looking for. So I was doing this on my own and then saw he was doing it. And I thought the same question you asked. Well, who would I be doing this for? Gamers or people running the game or people publishing games? And when it came down to it, I said, really, if I ignore any one of those, I feel I'm doing myself a disservice. Digital marketing, you're always told, hey, focus in, find your niche, drill it down as much as possible. Laser focus is a term we've been using for over a decade now. Mm-hmm. It's not a big enough market to do that here. And because of the way the community is, if I do something for players and not their game masters or DMs or storytellers or whatever, it's not going to do as well. And if I do something for just people running the games and not their players, it's going to do very poorly because, as we all know, there's 100+ players to everybody willing to run a game?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's that's what I kind of see as the challenge too. I don't think that you can just do one type of content and really just keep doing that in day out, because there just isn't nearly as much like you said. It's like we have this great imbalance that we understand, like, that we would always, I think that you could push and push and push more and more people to run games. And I mean, if that was kind of one of your focuses, is to get those people to a point where they could actually run a game, like do whatever it takes through social media to get people interested in doing it, whether it's talking about professional storytelling and the opportunities there, along with getting people started, because to become a professional storyteller, you probably need about 10 years of experience, because you're going to be doing it part-time. I think that that's pretty valuable, but I don't think that you could do the same thing every day. I don't think you could just like basically talk about RPG current events, because there are people that do that. There are people like Tankar's Tavern that do that. But and I love Tankar's Tavern. That's where I didn't meet either of you guys there. I met you guys both on Google Plus, but there's a lot of people that I've met recently that are from there and are great, and some of them are prolific in the industry, and some of them want to be, and they give them all kind of that same platform. It's really cool. But most of the people there, except a few exceptions like Frog God Games, aren't really doing much in terms of promotion for what they're doing. I kind of like, and this is where I want to help VB the most, because I think he's closest to actually being able to get into the space where he's able to make money with his labor of love over the past 30 years almost. So I guess my point on all that is that's what I'm looking for. Like, I'm looking for to create value for myself. I'm looking to create value for other people that I can see, look, they got this product, it's fantastic. How do I get that out in front of more people? Well, I got to get myself in front of more people too. So it's like, it's all this building together. It's kind of like you got content for me personally, you got content for the community when it comes to the people that I know and I'm working with. And I think that's going to be my brand, really, is like going out there, finding people, consulting, talking, some of it on camera, some of it off, and then have my other ideas about both business and RPGs to get in there while I'm going along. So that's kind of my strategy. And it's like, so I guess what I'm going to do now is, that's my strategy. I'm going to ask Cam about it, and then VB, I want to hear about some brainstorming about what could be your strategy, and then we'll kind of talk about it. So Cam, what do you think about what I'm talking about?
Excuse me, still getting over that cold. No, I mean, you've nailed it in very general terms. I didn't watch the video you posted this morning, but just looking at the title and seeing what you've been doing, I bet you I know what it says already. Which
You've
is
heard some of it.
Developing the cadence. Well, developing the cadence, right? Hey, I got to stick to it. I'm not going to wake up with $1 million in the bank tomorrow morning. Takes time. It takes time to build. And we were also talking about how you've got to get out there. You've got to meet the people so that you not only, build up your fan base, but then build up your reach. So that is definitely a part of it. And that's honestly one of the reasons that I have not dedicated time to doing it before, because make no mistake about it, I know you know this, it's not an easy 5-minute task. It's something that takes time and dedication, and you just got to keep at it. So step one, keep doing it. Start with step 2 or 1A. Keep with the small stuff to get started. And 3, have your goals and milestones set. And that's definitely the same thing that I'm looking at doing. I was actually this morning sitting down here saying, I only have so much time in a day and only so much free time. What can I do regularly? When can I do it? Flat out just laying out a schedule for myself to do these things. So I'm right on the same page with you. And as an aside, before we talked, you told me what Mark's project is, and I even before he told me what it was, I was already looking at it. It's awesome, Mark. Definitely, in my opinion, better than another project that we named alongside it.
and we're
Thank you
we're
very
going
much.
to, yes, we're definitely looking around. Let's just say that there's lots of awareness coming to RPGs, both from people that are, I like to call them spectators, like people that they think that it's really cool. They might not ever do it themselves, but like the RPG idea is actually in their head. And some of those people will be converted over to players. And then you have people that played or were thinking about playing already, and now they're over. And then you have the people that are leveraging this art form in a way that it really hasn't kind of had the legs before. It's kind of interesting that RPGs came out first, but then video games like surged ahead, and now we're back to RPGs having kind of like a second renaissance because they're so much more flexible and so much more creative than a video game itself. So just putting that out there. And VB, what is kind of some brainstorming ideas on how to get what you have already created, get it out in front of more people?
Well, actually, to be honest, I'd like to address another question
Okay.
before I get to that one. And this has to do with your general quest for figuring out where can we provide value. And I think that the goal of providing value is clearly the essential, the essential goal. Because if you're not providing value, you may have a little bit of success, but then, it's not going to really build. So
Right.
where's the value? And I think that what we're suffering from is a kind of miasma of the mind on this question. We're really trying to figure out, well, and it's a very complex environment is the thing. So where is the value? And I think what we have to do is step back and look at what do players and games masters do, and where are their choke points, and then address those. So I'll give an example of where I don't think people are necessarily able to provide value at this point. And this is just my opinion. I know a lot of people probably jump down my throat on this, but I think creating new rule systems is not a value adding proposition anymore. It used to be. But I think it's probably 1 in 1,000 rule systems at this point that could possibly strike on something new. Because not that everything possible has been done. I'm sure there are things that are possible that nobody's thought of yet.
Right.
That would be a good candidate for a new rule system. But just tweaking somebody else's thing and mixing it with this other person's and then floating in this genre, that's not going to do it, in my opinion.
Well, I think
that's not really.
I was gonna like interject in there just real quick is that I think a lot of that has to do with everybody trying to build their mousetrap just a little bit different than somebody else because of the legal what do you call it, limitations of some of those systems, and that people they want their own thing because it's their own thing, but they also want their own thing because they don't want to be tied to some other company or that kind of thing to where they can have control of it when it comes to the business side of it. And maybe some people don't
Sure.
think that way, but I think that's what they're thinking,
Yeah.
deep down inside.
That's what I was thinking deep down inside when I got started. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do something for D&D. And this is going back to before there was an OGL. And I was like, no, for one thing, I had my own world and my own system, so I didn't need D&D.
Right.
And the other thing was, even if I did need D&D, it's just a bad idea. I'm going to be tethered to a company that could cut that cord anytime they want. I don't want to set myself up for disaster. So I understand that point. But here's the thing. So rule systems aside, I think where the value is in helping people to percolate their creativity. And that is a matter. In fact, I'm going to talk about a friend of mine's product where he's doing what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It's the Dark Fantasy Settings by Eric Diaz. And what he has is a completely system neutral document that explains the various possibilities for creating dark setting worlds. And I think it's actually quite well done. He's got a few charts in there where you just roll, and you could randomize the setting if you want to. But he's really talking about, hey, this is what these settings are like. This is what playing a game in hell is like.
Right.
This is what playing in a post-apocalyptic world is about. And this is how you should think about it. That kind of thing was really thought-provoking. I was reading it and I'm already like, a world. I got it. This is cool. I could do something with this. That is value.
Yeah.
To me.
If I could just, interject a little bit there myself, I think the other thing, going back to what you said earlier, is, they're creating things and it's all been done before, except for what no one's even thought of yet.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the point to that, I think, especially when you look at rules and game systems, is what's the purpose behind another system? Name me anything you want to play. I probably have a book on my shelf behind me that we can do it, right? I don't need another system. I don't need another new system. And frankly, I think that fragmentation is not helping the gaming industry at all. It is and it isn't, right?
Right.
So why do I want to try and talk, Mark and Kevin into playing, I don't know, Seventh Seas when they've got, he's got a D&D game set with sailors and pirates, and someone else is running a Savage Worlds game that's the same game.
Right.
Oh, here, come learn a new system so we can play the same game again. No.
Right. The same, exactly. The same setting with different systems.
Yeah. I think, I was just gonna say the emphasis on mechanics, I think, is really what could be kind of set aside in content that's going to bring value to the community, because having content that's kind of rooted in specific mechanics or something like that, it limits your audience, in an already limited audience when it comes to people that want to do something that's more creative and higher energy than something like video games, which is not as creative, but it's much lower energy. It's easier to just like get home and turn on your whatever device you're using to play video games and just go, instead of all the pre-work and the post-work and the middle work that happens with RPGs.
Right. And the thing about that is, when you are playing a video game, let's say a role-playing game, video game, you're really essentially riding along on somebody else's creativity. The visual experience is really the draw. And so you have this cool visual experience, and maybe it percolates your imagination to a little bit, but you're not really contributing anything in a creative sense. You're just, point and click and shoot and whatever, slash and this and that. And you're playing a game and you're mostly looking for points. And so you want to win. The fundamental difference between that activity and playing a tabletop role-playing game is that you are an active creative participant in a role-playing game.
Right.
And it's the use of your imagination in that process that's actually what I think the big draw is, and why so many people are coming into role-playing games at this point, because it's kind of, the word has gotten out. Wow, this is like a real creative thing and it's fun.
Right.
And so in my way of looking at it, where's the value that we can add? The value we can add to this community is to help them to activate and organize and establish themselves as creative persons who are doing fun role-playing game things, and helping them to do that in the sense of inspiring them with cool ideas, or helping them to organize their thinking in terms of how to create worlds, or in my case, providing tools that make it easier for them to create and manage those worlds. That's where I think we can be adding value. And that's where I would be looking as a consumer, Kevin, of your videos. What I would want to get is, help me be more creative, because that's what's brought me to this hobby. And sometimes I'm a little brain stuck. I don't have an idea. I'm looking for ideas, things that will help me to go, oh, wow, that's a cool thing. I could do a world with that.
Right. So like and I get all that, and I've thought about that, and that's exactly the kinds of things that I've been thinking about. But the challenge, I don't want to call it a problem because I think we can figure it out. But the challenge is communicating an abstract idea in a way that is on camera, in creative, for ads, for content that will get more people looking in this specific direction, when what we do has a lot to do with that person, the improv, you had to be there to see it go down, because it's basically a meme when somebody tries to tell you about their character,
Oh yeah.
because you don't have any context, so you don't,
And you
it's
weren't
not
there.
going to
You
mean
can't
anything.
feel the
Right,
vibe. You can't get
right.
the emotion that builds
So
up and everything that led to that "oh my god" moment.
right, and so video games and um, movies and TV and that kind of stuff, what their strength is that they create characters, and those characters are the same character that everybody is watching, and that they create a emotional attachment to not just the characters, but the world and the things that are in the world and that kind of thing. And those are the things that make people rabid fans of a certain IP. So I think really what we have a issue with is a core IP issue. Like, you have the Forgotten Realms, but who knows who Elminster is? I do. You guys probably do, but it's like Elminster has never been taken into the 20th century when it comes to media. And like the characters like that, and in worlds like that, like Forgotten Realms, they're there in a way, but also not. And a lot of people, but the problem is that when you try and adapt those things, if you don't do it well, you get things like the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which is a
Mhm.
meme. It's like you can't do these things. You have to put as much passion into actually creating a canon and a shareable set of people and places and things if you have an IP, and you have the product where it's like, well, this is the world. This is how here are the ways that you can be this kind of person in this kind of world, and you already know kind of how it functions because you're a fan of the show or the videos or whatever came out of that. That's what I think we have a problem with. It's a strength and a weakness at the same time. It's like it's it's all you, it's all personal, it's all creative and rule zero, and you can take it whatever you want. But when you're trying to create some unity behind it, there isn't a whole lot of unity in the in the community when it comes to
Yeah.
genres or characters or those kind of things. Now, I
Right.
think I think with Elthos, where you have a lot of unity is in archetypes. And I think really that could kind of be a way that we can start to go that direction. And this is all just brainstorming. I'm trying to figure this out because this is the core communication problem that I see that we have with the hobby.
Well, it goes back to something that Cameron was saying, which is that there's an enormous amount of fragmentation. And that's not just across rule sets, that's also across what you might think of as foundational story. There is
Mhm.
no foundational story that unifies the world of role playing.
I mean, there's the
Um,
hero's journey. There's the archetypes of adventure, but really not everybody's playing adventure anymore in RPGs. I mean, that used to be like the genre that people were playing with RPGs. And then it became, well, how about this game about vampires? How about this game about horror? How about this game about eldritch horror? How about this game about, uh
okay.
yeah, it became something much different than just like the main adventure thing. So we don't even have unity in genre. Like, we're not even telling the same kind of stories across
Absolutely.
RPGs.
So it's a very interesting point, but there's a counterpoint that I think should be made as well.
Absolutely.
The very thing that makes it impossible for me to sit there and tell my girlfriend, "Oh, did I ever tell you about the time I killed 10 dreaded gorgons?" Is the thing that actually makes that experience unique and something that I will always remember because it is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so the quest to build a unified community may not be really a direction that is necessary, in the sense that the appeal may be actually because you can't do that. And so you have these unique stories that are very individualized to that small group of people. Hey, you remember when we killed those 10 dreaded gorgons? And only 5 people can raise their hands in the entire world and go, yeah. So that's just a thing. I just want to put that out there.
Sure.
But something you mentioned about the Mythos machine, I just want to kind of extrapolate on a little bit just so people understand what you're talking about.
Right.
So in the Mythos machine, I have one thing that unites all the worlds. I can have 10,000 worlds in Mythos machine, 100,000 worlds, it won't matter. There is a central thing that unites them all, and that's the alignment system. Now, I know a lot of people don't like alignment system, and I am, toying with the idea of just making it invisible or visible according to what the games master wants, but that's irrelevant. Point is, there's a central system of alignment that underlies all the worlds, and it was the one thing that I wanted to pick to unite the worlds. And so the alignment system is basically, the concept is that there's not only good, evil, and law and chaos, which makes sense from a traditionalist role-playing game perspective, but I have it broken out into the major axes are law, chaos, good, and evil. And then they're divided into basically a 12-slice pie chart, which corresponds to the zodiac.
Right.
So the zodiac and the alignment system are overlaid on top of each other. Then on top of that, there's a planet, each zodiac sign has a planet that is the child of that zodiac sign. And so there's a planetary, and that's like the inner circle, or what I think of as like it's like one circle, and then there's the outer circle, which is the zodiac, and these all form 12, times 2, so 24 spots that each one is in alignment. So if I look at Sagittarius is lawful evil. Okay, it's the realm of Jupiter, which is the planet of Sagittarius, and so on. And as the planets move around in our solar system in the real world, I can track that. And on any given day of play, I can look at a current zodiac chart and look at where the planets are and understand what the influences in my world are from the perspective of the gods.
Right. And
in addition to that, so let's call that the upper strata or the celestial sphere. Now, what Kevin was talking about is the lower strata, or what I call the archetype sphere. And that is the same overlay map on top of the alignment system and the zodiac system. Underneath that is the same overlay, but the tarot cards. So each tarot card, and we know this because there are some tarot cards that very specifically align to certain planets. There is the Tower, which aligns to Mars. Everybody knows that, who knows about the tarot, etc. So we knew that there are some, and what I did was I spent quite a bit of time figuring out how did these things actually all align together, and I created a system on that. And the mechanic for it is that when players play, their characters do things, and as they perform deeds in the world, there's an alignment system that doesn't enforce and say you're lawful good, so you have to behave this way. What it does is it says, how did you behave? And then it charts that based on the law chaos axis. Right. What was the kind of legal status of what they did? Were they breaking the law? Were they upholding the law? Were they building an institution or destroying an institution? That determines whether or not that action was lawful or chaotic. And then on the good evil axis, I asked the players, what was your motive for doing that? Now, you could have a situation where they were stealing from people, but the motive was to give that money to the poor. And that's a Robin Hood thing. And so the action was chaotic, but the motive was good. So that makes it chaotic good. The more the characters do the chaotic good things, the more chaotic good they become. And so then at some point, when they get enough, rating in that direction, then the gods might start to notice them. They might start acquiring powers or whatever. Now, that's an underlying foundation underneath the system of the Mythos machine and the Elthos RPG.
Right.
But in, let's say, a space campaign, you don't necessarily want to deal with that. So it's something that you could safely ignore, but it's there.
Right.
So that connection is the thing that could potentially unite all worlds. And I built a little utility at one point. And what it is it's a radar screen. And I can pick, let's say, all the groups in a world, and I can see them on this Cartesian grid radar screen of where they are in terms of alignment. Mm-hmm. So it's the aggregate alignment of all the players. And then I can do an animation that shows them over time moving through the alignment system. So that as the group does more and more chaotic good things, they kind of migrate up to the upper left side of the grid, and I can watch them in comparison to other groups as they move around in the alignment system. So imagine that for entire worlds. Like there's an aggregate alignment for the whole world, and there's a metaphysical space in which these worlds exist, and at some point they can intersect each other and be on the same alignment point, and that opens up a portal between the worlds. In other words, there's things that can be done with this framework, this setup, that can be very, very interesting and give people a sense that, yeah, my world is unique, it's totally individual, and yet there's a relationship between it and all the other worlds.
Right. And the thing that's interesting about that too is I feel like almost that worlds, personalities, archetypes, all these kind of things. I mean, you build it for Elthos, but I think it's something that could help to kind of map on to just the RPGs in general, and that it would take more work because you don't have the data that's coming in from your system, but you could kind of like map that out. And I don't know if that's useful. I don't know if demographically or something like that would actually be useful. But so Cam, me and Mark have been talking for a minute here. So with what we've been talking about when it comes to the communication challenge that we have, is there anything in particular that jumps into your head about internet marketing and social media marketing that might help us to best channel our efforts in trying to communicate this?
My games, so that other games masters could pick up on it and say, hey, wow, that's a cool idea. I could do things with this.
I mean, it's interesting because there's a lot of people who have done this successfully. So obviously people look at what they've done, what they maybe do differently than what you were thinking about doing. What can you leverage from what they've done, as well as you've got to look at your professional lives. I mean, we've all had jobs where we've had to present concepts and educate other people where we work. And you kind of have to look at how can you, not just reach the most amount of people, which is what we talked about earlier, but communicate and really get your point across. And there's a few key things, right? Be authentic, right? Be a real person. Look at Matthew Colville, right? Just a talking head video all the time, but he has built I'd watch him. I think I've watched every single one of his and taken lessons from him. Matthew Mercer, Critical Role, obviously its own thing, and for better or worse, it's great for the industry.
Right.
But where he started speaking to me is when he stepped out of doing the Critical Role videos and started doing Critical Role adjacent videos.
Right.
And you'd see him not playing the character, not playing the DM, and being him.
Right.
So those kinds of things make a big difference.
Excuse me.
And then as well, like that bit that Mark just explained, very interesting, very in depth. I would never try and explain that in a talking only video or in writing. That's something that requires diagrams and graphics. So just keeping in mind, that just because it makes sense. Like Mark, you've been in this now for over 2 decades now, just on your project, Elthos. So it makes perfect sense to you, but someone like me who just walked into it, you would have lost me.
Right, definitely.
So no offense, but just that thing too, as well as you're going to be making stuff for the average gamer. I watched some videos the other day. I was talking about stuff that's like, what? Wait, you have to explain this? And it was something like 3 tips to make your role playing better. A short, like 5-minute video or something. And the guy explained it really quick and then gave examples. They were not great videos, but they were decent enough to get his point across. And it was the way in which he did it. He's like, hey, here's the challenge that you're having, whether you realize it or not. It's easy. Here's how you do it. And that was it.
Right.
So, yeah, those are the key things. Make it as accessible as possible. And, break it into smaller chunks for people to, what's the word I'm looking, digest, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to I will never sit down and watch a live play, ever. But I might watch a couple minutes of one, right? It's just not my shtick.
You might want to watch a highlight in a blooper reel, right? Like from that or something like that.
Exactly. And if it's, so I know a lot of people do. Now, at the same time, I got out of school years ago. And even back in high school years ago, by junior year, I stopped going to classes because I felt my 45 minutes was too important. I went, found out what we were learning, left, and did something else.
Right.
So, there's that side to look at.
There's also the flip side of that, though, and why I think that using the same content but putting it in different formats can be really effective, is that there really is an audience online for long-form discussions.
Those jerks.
These are people that sit in their cars for 2.5 hours every day, and they are captive audiences, and that's a format that works for them. It's audio, it's it's long form, and it's got a lot to it that you can't just get out of the cliff notes and out of the clips and things. So really what I think is, like, you should make content with both, and you should have playlists for both, and just make sure that you're showing, well, here's this 4-hour long video, but then I have the 6-minute video that was made just for you.
Right. I think part of that is, right, you could do the 4-hour long video and you could split it up into 40 10-minute sections.
Yeah.
As well as make sure you spend a couple dollars to go ahead and get it transcribed, and you can go back and clean it up, and then you're going to be doing the supporting material for it and everything. So there you've got an article. That's what we call pillar content.
Right.
So definitely what I say is, when you're trying to get something across, make sure it's widely accessible. But yes, definitely don't stay away from the long stuff either, because people are going to think you're, my equivalent of the one-hit wonder these days is the 2-minute wonder these days. Like, okay, you can talk on a subject for 2 minutes. That does not prove to me you know what you're doing.
Right. Well, I feel like a lot of that content has to do with the visual elements. Like, you can say the same thing on YouTube a million times, but if you have different creative when it comes to how you're doing your video, or who's presenting it, or what context it's in, or if you bring in something that's going on in the world or something like that, you can make a huge range of videos with the exact same type of informational content.
No, obviously, just Google anything on YouTube, and
Yeah. Well, and
it might be the same video by 1,000 different people.
Okay, and this is going to be a little bit more of a technical question for you, Cam, but when it comes to search engine, I was going to say SEO, but for search engine optimization out there for videos, is there I mean, what I've been doing is I've been trying to think of every keyword I could think of where somebody would get value uh, out of querying for that. Is there anything else? I know the descriptions, like this is all kind of changed in YouTube, and I don't know 100% if you are kind of like up on YouTube specifically or if you're working with other platforms, but like I know descriptions, it used to be that for a little while it was like about your title. And then they changed that because people were making like 1,000 character titles or something like that. And now I think what it is that you want a solid title, but then you want a decent description about what happened and links to things that you talked about, and then in the there's actually a tags section now. So those tags, is it useful or helpful to do composite word tags and then like individual word tags, or like, what's the a little bit more technical kind of consensus on that kind of thing?
Well, I suppose the answer to that, is, yeah, I can definitely answer it. It comes down to two things. How much time do you have, and how much are you willing to pay for the knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no, I'm serious. You know my PayPal.
I do.
No, so really the title is still 1,000% important. It definitely impacts not only where it shows up in search, but also whether people are going to click on it or not. The description is just as important. If you want to be down and dirty, take a transcript of the video, if it's a short enough video, and put the transcript in the description.
Okay.
People also use those descriptions, of course, for links and promotions and everything, so you can do that.
Right.
There's some studies right now that indicate if those are promotional links, it's actually downgrading your
So
Google score, more or less, but no proof there.
Do you mean like promotional, or I'm sorry, like affiliate links for Amazon or something like that? Or more broadly, like, hey, I'm linking to somebody else's page?
Right. Anything that you're already connected to, so a site that's already affiliated with your YouTube,
okay.
Or DriveThruRPG or Amazon. There's some studies right now indicating that could impact your Google score. Nothing's concrete on it because hush hush black box algorithms.
Right.
The other part of that is the tags work. There is no reason you should have role-playing game spelled 3 different ways and with an S in your tags.
Okay.
Any version of role-playing game is going to work. You don't need to have role-playing game, fantasy role-playing game, sci-fi role-playing game.
That was what I was interested in. Like, is it by tag, or is it more? I know that they've changed it. It's been different at different times. So yeah.
The tags are conglomerate, right?
Okay.
So Google's going to look at all your tags, and the more tags you have, actually, potentially, the weaker it is.
Right. So you want tags that, like I said, every word that I could think of individually that would, if somebody was searching for something like that broadly or somewhat in composite, that they're going to get value out of that tag.
No.
Okay.
Your most important words that people are going to search for. And because, again, if you have 10 tags there, it's not as valuable as 5 tags.
Okay.
Trying to do there, it's keyword stuffing. Definitely something I recommend anyone who's looking at doing this. Do a search online. Look up latent semantic indexing. Study it a little bit. There's also some tools that'll help with it. And make use of that. But it is definitely good, right? Because the old example was if you're running a roadside repair business, right? And you want somebody to call you for towing. Of course, your page is going to talk about towing.
Right.
Now, if you start talking about flat tire and tire jack and dead battery and all those other things on that same page, that's latent semantic indexing, which makes Google go, oh, now I know what this page is actually about.
Okay.
Rather than you just trying to sell something.
Right. So then you're saying that you want to have some descriptive tags, but you want to have a small number of them along with the core of what the video is.
Yes.
Okay. That's cool. It's because I'll be able to optimize these videos a little bit better. But honestly, it's like, okay, so this is going to be another kind of technical question when it comes to the age of a video. Is the like okay? So maybe this is a little bit broader question than I thought. When it comes to a video being found, does how old the video is or the video's historical activity, is that how it gets ranked? Or is it more like, I'm looking for this specific thing and then it's by, activity or history? I mean, I'm asking you to tell me about Yahoo's black or YouTube's black box, but I guess it would be just, what is a little bit of concise insight about how things get found on YouTube?
Right. So it's really, I mean, it's still using the Google, so Google algorithms. So it's not specific to YouTube.
Okay.
Now, one thing that is specific to YouTube that most people don't talk about is Google has developed, because of their voice software and what is it, Amazon Echo? What's it called now? I forget.
I think that's it.
Bottom line is they have machine learning software listening to every single video. That's one of the reasons you'll get pinged for having music in the background that it recognizes, even if you didn't realize it was there.
Right.
And that's one thing. What you say in your video can actually trigger points, good or bad, on the search engine. Right. The other thing is definitely have it be on topic, have it be related. As far as when it comes to age, the only time that's going to matter and perhaps help you is a newer video is going to show up when someone does a search and says, in terms of recency or limit search to, past 6 months or whatever.
Right. Oh, okay.
So that's what it'll make a difference. So especially
it makes a difference.
Right. So filtering, so especially keep that in mind if you're doing anything review based. People are going to look for the latest news.
Right.
But other than that, the social proof, how many people have watched the video, how long they have watched the video, have they clicked out of it, have they clicked like or dislike or made comments. Those are all very strong signals to Google if they're valid, if it's a valid video that they're going to show.
Okay. So, I guess my only other question would be like, when it comes to kind of building that initial market, when it comes to how many views you're kind of getting from friends and family and anybody that you can stick the video in front of, when is about the point, and I know this is a really general question, but it's just kind of like, when is it about the point when it's kind of like phase 2 in your marketing, where it's like, okay, I've established a core viewership, I have, a decent amount of interaction per video, and now it would probably be get more bang for the buck for doing things like, like ads and promotion and that kind of stuff for your brand.
That's funny you should ask that. So there's some new information coming out regarding that, but the bottom line is, unless you have disposable income, right, that you don't care about, you just want to throw away. Some people do, right? Some people totally do.
Yeah.
I recommend not spending money until you at least start making money on ads. What I will tell you is I have a number of clients recently that it's very interesting. We actually started seeing all their YouTube views and all their search results rank tremendously higher organically once we started spending just a little bit of money on Google Ads.
Yeah.
See, that's Google tell you that's no, it doesn't work like that. Right. But so yeah, as far as when it's stage 2, it comes down to, have you been growing organically, naturally, right? between your own shameless self-promotion and going out and increasing your reach and people finding your videos on their own. It's different for everybody. I certainly haven't done enough in-depth research into this industry as a business yet to go, here are the hard numbers.
Right.
You kind of have to know, okay, it's time to start advertising because I'm getting traction, but I'm not getting enough.
Right. Okay. So you definitely want to have something to sell that you're going to be making money on with the ads. But like you said, I was talking to VB about this, Mark, about this before we got on here. Is it worth putting like, $10 a month in or something like that because of what you were talking about? Just to figure out how to make your ad, try and do the best creative that you can in that ad space, and then just have it out there and just kind of see what happens and just chalk it up to brand awareness.
Hey, $10 a month isn't a lot, right? And really, you have to spend when you really want the advertising to do something for you. You're talking adding several zeros to it.
Okay.
If you're going to spend a small amount like that, it's not going to hurt. But frankly, I would take that money and throw it onto a social platform if it were only 10 a month.
Right.
Facebook or Twitter or something.
Yeah.
I'd go ahead and do paid ads there just because they're cheaper. The other thing that's really helpful with spending a small amount of money is testing out concepts and topics.
Okay.
See how quickly that goes away. If you were, if I wanted to really see how popular Elthos was, Google has tools that'll give you estimates. But so if you really want to get an idea of how hungry people are for the topic and how much competition's out there, look at how quickly you burn through a budget. So if you put $10 up and your ads start running, then you're out of budget in an hour. Either you configured it completely wrong or you're onto something.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of it's as much brand awareness as it is market testing. Then at that point with the small budget.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that if you're still watching this video and you made it through all of that business technical stuff, this is what happens behind the scenes of practically every influencer that you know. They're either talking to somebody or they have somebody talking to somebody about these things, because this is essential to building both my business and Mark's business and Cam's business, and for us to be able to provide value in RPGs, but not just be able to provide value, but to have some of that value get noticed, which is the other side of the coin. It's the other battle you have to fight even when you've been working on a project for 20 years and it actually has a lot of workable, usable value. How do you get somebody to pay attention to it? So you guys have anything, like any closing thoughts or any other ideas to shoot across the bow? And I probably should say one person since I have two people here. So Mark, you got any ideas?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered a lot for one video. So
this is going to be 4 videos. Just so you know.
Really?
Yeah.
We just saw this work for the week.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
No, well, it helps because I'm actually going to be off on training for 4 days this week. So, this coming week. So I had to do this. Well, I mean, this just happened to happen. You guys made it really easy for me to where I didn't have to come up with creative for 4 different videos today. So I appreciate it.
Sure. No problem.
But
so yeah,
very helpful.
I mean, this is very helpful. It's been helpful to me just to listen to you guys talking about the Facebook stuff. So, but yeah, I think that we should keep the conversation going. I mean, there's a lot of information to kind of think about here,
right?
And this is the kind of thing where you kind of have to mull it over a little bit and then think about it and then talk about it again and look at it from another angle.
Absolutely.
So my suggestion is we kind of keep the conversation going, and and I'm very happy to be a part of it. This has been great.
Yeah, I was glad to host it. I'm glad to get it out here so we can start talking a little bit more visibly to people. And that's been my biggest thing. Basically, over the past 5 years, I've been doing something with a guy named Jonathan Henry called Giant Dragons Gamer Chat. I'm not always there, and he's not always there, but we're there most of the time, or he's there most of the time, and I'm there sometimes. And it's just been kind of like coffee house backside conversation, which has been great. I've learned a ton of stuff, but it's just like I think at this point we've been talking about these things long enough to where getting them out in the community is going to provide more value than just kind of working on the stuff together. Because lots changed in the last 5 years on a lot of these projects and a lot of what's going on in the industry. So I think it's about time to get that stuff out there. So Cam, you got anything?
Yeah, one thing, and we'll talk about this more later, but one piece of advice for anyone who's going down the same path is deliver on your promises. Great writers do this, right? They allude to what's going to happen later in the book, and when you get there, it's rewarding because you put all that effort in to get there. YouTubers are horrible about this. Sometimes they'll build up anticipation for an event, and yes, then it happens. That's great. But, like there's several gaming channels that I follow who, they'll do an initial review of the game, and I'm guilty, right? Not being a YouTuber, but doing this. But they're like, oh, yeah, so blah, 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 and this is really cool, and we'll talk more about it later. Well,
Right, and they
it's
never
been
do.
like 6 months, a year, and they've never talked about it
Yeah.
again. So if you do something like that, it can totally happen, and then you look back at it, maybe you've fallen out of love with it, maybe you suddenly hate the publisher or whatever. Just be upfront about that and say, here's why you're not getting that payoff.
Right.
Mea culpa, let's move on to the next subject, because that will damage your brand quicker than anything, because people will instantly lose faith and trust in you.
Right.
And if they can't trust your brand, they're not going to pay much attention to anything else you got to say.
I think that's one of the big things that I see floating around there. I mean, all the time you're going to have, I mean, the YouTube influencer community is actually, there's a good amount of people. And then you have things like what happened with like the Oni Sion situation and some of these things that are not so great and fun about being, the back the back room of the YouTube influencer. And yeah, I mean your reputation as an influencer, that's the thing that's the most important. And some people that are good on camera and are good at kind of dividing their life up, it's hard to know if there's some shady stuff going on behind closed doors. And then so it's just you never know. And I was actually watching a little clip from PewDiePie yesterday about how to start a YouTube channel, and he basically just said, like you got to be really careful with who you trust, but trust is basically the currency. So it's just really weird to me that there can be a lot of this, not so trustworthy stuff going on, but that you as the influencer, being trustworthy is like your number one thing, and once you lose it with your audience, it's probably not going to be able to get it back. So it's really kind of interesting. But
it is
yeah.
definitely. I think that it would be a great topic for another video is how do you build and not destroy trust in your brand.
And it's, man, it's such a, I mean, I won't go 100% into it right now, but it's just like there's so many facets to it, right? Like any decision that you make in your business is going to make some people happy and some people not happy. So it's like you just kind of at some point, really what I think is that you should focus on what you believe is going to be the best for the business long term, and that there are going to be some people that don't like those decisions in the short run, but really they're not they're not running your business. Like even if you lose some clients or something like that because of a decision you make, they're not there making the decisions and running your business. If you're making what you think is the best choice for your business in perpetuity, then just have to go on from there. You can't worry about what people are going to say about it. And that's the other thing too, is just like the comments and things. And I've thought about talking about this a little bit, is like I actually had a video that I had, and I didn't end up putting it up because it was so rough and it was with my old camera. And it was actually there's a YouTube video about asking people what they want, like asking your audience, well, what do you want? What do you want to see? And I used to think about this when I was first doing content on Twitch. It was just like, well, I wanna put up things that people want to see because they want to see it, right? So that's why they're gonna come see me, right? But then it was apparent pretty quickly that, like, no, people want a surprise. They want a surprise that is not too surprising, but they want something that's surprising. So that's where you're trying to figure out with all of this content. Is like, you want it to be somewhat predictable, but you also then want it to be somewhat surprising and interesting. So that's a tall order. And all three of us have different things that we're working on at different stages and different perspectives, and that's why it was so cool to have this together. But this has been Daily Datum. This has been an awesome shoot. I'm going to break this podcast up and share it with y'all over the next few days because I have some training to do over the week. And this is awesome. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Cam. And I will see all of you next week.